welcome to this edition of A Short Taste of English. And today we're going to be looking at the subject of creative writing. Creative writing is obviously about writing in a creative way, but it can be either writing in a creative way in a kind of closed, specific structure, or it can be writing in a very open, totally creative, let's say, structure. We're going to have a few examples of some creative writing exercises today. Now, first thing is you need a pen, not a pencil, a pen, and a piece of paper to write on. So if you don't have a pen and a piece of paper, I suggest you press the pause button and go and get one. Okay? So, hope you're ready now. So you need your paper and your pen. Now the first exercise is this. I want you to write on your piece of paper, Christmas is. Christmas is. Okay? And then I want you to complete the sentence. So basically I want you to give your definition of Christmas. Okay? You can give 2, 3, maybe 4 examples. For example, you could use an adjective. You could say, Christmas is beautiful, for example. Or you could use a verb. You could say, Christmas is giving presents, for example. Remember, if you use the verb, you need the ing form. Christmas is giving presents. Okay? So, have a think for a few seconds of how you would define Christmas. Write down your short list. When you've finished, share your ideas with the other students and compare them. You might find that some of you have some similar answers, and you should also find some different answers. Okay? If you've got a nice long list of varied answers, you could even write the whole list together on one large piece of paper and attach it to the wall in your classroom, if you have a classroom. Okay? So, Christmas is. Okay? That's the first exercise. Very simple, but very, very structured, because you have a certain limitation on what you can write. Okay. Second exercise is I like this music because. I like this music because. Which music? Aha. Now, if you remember the A Short Taste of English video number 10, the subject was music. Have a look at that if you haven't watched it yet. And on that video, there are 3 pieces of music. Okay? So listen to those 3 pieces of music and decide which one you prefer, which of the 3 pieces you like the best. Okay? Once you've decided, you can complete your sentence with I like this music because, and then complete the sentence. Okay? Okay, again, when you've finished this exercise, shouldn't take you very, very long. Compare your answers with your fellow students, and you'll find, again, some of you have chosen the same piece of music, so you might have similar answers. You might even have different answers. And obviously, those of you who've chosen a different piece of music might have completely different answers depending on the music you've selected. Okay? So, try that exercise. Now, both of those 2 exercises were exercises that you do on your own, individually, and then you compare your answers with the group. The next exercise is actually a group activity. Okay, so for this exercise, you need to be in groups of 3 or 4, no more than 4. Okay? And what you are going to do is you are going to write a story together. That means you will help each other with the language, with the correct form of the verb, with the vocabulary, with the tenses, with the prepositions, etc. What is the story? Well, have a look at my tie. What can you see? The story of Aladdin. Now, most of you should know the story of Aladdin. Most of my students know the story of Aladdin. So if you know the story of Aladdin, what are you going to do? You're going to write the story not in your language, but in English. So to do that, you get together in your group of 3 or 4 and begin writing the story together.
Dopo 10.000 anni lì dentro, uno si ritrova col collo tutto incriccato. Voilà, frena. Che favola essere di nuovo fuori, ragazzi!
That was fun, wasn't it? Okay, so, as I said, in your groups, write the story of Aladdin in English, helping each other in your groups. It will take you about 10, maybe 15 minutes, no problem. When you've finished your story, there will probably be a few mistakes. No problem, that's normal. So what do you do then? You show your story to your teacher, and your teacher should correct the mistakes, okay? Once you have your mistakes corrected, you can read the story to the other students, who will listen, and then they will read their story, their version of Aladdin. Now the great thing about this activity is we have lots of different versions of the same story that everybody knows, but each group uses different language. Each group uses the language that they know, and then they listen to the language of the other groups and they learn new words. That's how students learn best, learning from each other. Okay, so that's a very good dynamic exercise. A storytelling exercise using a story that they know from when they were children. That's why, again, the emotional aspect links to the memory. If your students don't know the story of Aladdin, use a different story. For example, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or Cinderella. Pinocchio, I'm sure you can find a story, a childhood story that your students know. Okay, find a story that's suitable for them. Okay, next exercise is also kind of group activity. This is more, rather than storytelling, it's more role play. Now in this activity, you're going to be divided into 2 groups. So if there are about 20, let's say 20 of you, that's fine. You can have 10 of you on one side to make one group, and 10 of you on the other side to make another group. If there are about 30 or 40 of you, then maybe you could have 3 or 4 groups. But ideally we should have 2 groups. Now, one group is going to be the mountain, and the other group is going to be the sea. Okay? Now, those of you who are the mountain, I want you to imagine you are the mountain. I want you to feel the mountain. So, think of the mountain. Think of the shape. Think of the dimension of the mountain, the structure. Think of its color. Think of its substance. Think of it, the mountain's relationship with the sun, the mountain's relationship with the sea, the mountain's relationship with humans, the mountain's relationship with animals, okay? Think of the mountain and how it reacts in different situations, okay? And then I want you, together in your group, the mountain, to write a sentence. The mountain is better because, and then write a list of different reasons why the mountain is better than the sea. But to be able to find lots and lots of reasons, you really need to focus on being the mountain. You have to remember you are the mountain, and then you can understand why you are better. Okay, so make a list together. Okay, those of you who are the sea, again, I want you to focus and think of the sea. Think of the enormous size of you. Think of the depth. Think of the colour of the sea. Again, contact with fish, contact with animals, contact with humans. What is your relationship with the sun? What is your relationship with the mountain? Okay? Once you've got into that feel, your sentence is, the sea is better because, and then make a list all together. Okay? Now this activity could take you again about 10 minutes. Once you've finished, what do? The two groups face each other and compare their answers. And then we need one person who should be objective. The teacher hopefully will be objective, and the teacher will decide which group has the best answers, the mountain or the sea. Okay? So this again is a very good exercise for creating vocabulary. It involves very quick, fast writing and sharing of ideas and working together. Okay? Right, now the last exercise I'm going to give you is one of my favorite creative writing exercises because it is completely open, completely freestyle. It's like a kind of freestyle dialogue in your group. Now let me give you an example of what we do. So you begin by writing a message with your piece of paper, of course. You have your piece of paper. You begin by writing a message to one of the other students in your group. For example, hello John, how are you? Hello John, how are you? Question mark. Very simple. Then what do you do with your message? You take it to John and you give it to John. John receives the message. What does he do? He responds, I'm fine, thanks, very well, terrible, whatever. Okay? When John has responded, he takes the message back to the original person, who we'll call David, and then David writes another message to John and takes the message again to John. John responds again and takes the message back to David, and this continues. However, while John is reading David's message, hello John, how are you, and thinking about his reply, David does not fall asleep. He doesn't sit down and relax. What does he do? He has another piece of paper and he writes another message to another person in the class, who then responds with his reply. So what should happen is that each student in the class is at the same time contemporarily writing 3 or 4 messages at least all the time, which means that you are continuously writing. You have no time to stop. Now this activity is amazing because when you actually do it, your adrenaline really goes. It's a very, very physical exercise, not just because of the getting up and delivering the message, but the writing itself, the continuous writing, is very, very physical. When you write these messages, as you write more and more and more, you are not thinking. You are writing freely. You are writing without thinking, which is probably, in many cases, the best way to communicate. So it's very, very powerful. The other thing about this exercise is that your communication with the other person is strictly personal between you and that other person. Nobody else sees that dialogue unless you want them to. So the idea is just to write freely between people. Okay? Now, how long does this activity last? That really depends on the students. I would say the shortest time should be 20 minutes for it to be effective. On average, I would say half an hour. But if your students are really enjoying it, don't stop them. I once had a group, and after about 30 minutes, I told them to stop because I wanted to do another activity. And they looked at me and said, no. And they continued for another 15 minutes because they really enjoyed the activity. So if the students are enjoying the activity, let them continue. It's a really great exercise. Okay? Very important point if you are a teacher. you as a teacher should be ideally involved in the first two exercises we did, the individual ones, and also this last one. You should be involved, not watching as an outsider. With the group ones, Aladdin, or the role play, Mountain Sea, it's better to be neutral. But with these exercises, you should actually be involved, because the best example of a leader, as you know, is to lead. Okay? So, I hope you've enjoyed these creative writing exercises, these few examples that I've given you. If you like these exercises and you'd like to do more of them, have a look at the Laugh and Learn website for the creative writing courses, specifically on that, or on any of the larger scale workshops in which creative writing is included. And as usual, I will leave you with an expression, and the expression is: a spoken word lasts for seconds. A spoken word lasts for seconds. A written expression lasts forever. A written expression lasts forever.